Hi, my name is Dr. John Ripoli, and I want to talk to you today about hormones. So, we have the endocrine system of the human body. The endocrine system is made up of endocrine glands. And endocrine glands are simply glands in the body, like the pancreas, like the ovaries and the testes, that produce chemical substances called hormones. And hormones travel long distances, say to their target organ or their target tissue, to elicit some sort of physiological response. In contrast, we have other ways that the body communicates. One of them is called autocrine communication. This is within the cell. We have another way of communicating, which is from one cell to another, which is called paracrine communication. So what distinguishes hormones is really the length at which they travel to elicit that type of response. The body's production of hormones is referred to as endogenous production. That's the natural production by our body's own endocrine glands, as compared to exogenous intake. Exogenous intake would be HRT, hormone replacement therapy through pharmaceutical drugs, and things that are found in nature and things that are man-made, such as xenobiotics, xeno meaning foreign, biotic meaning life, like herbicides and pesticides, and something called bisphenol A, which is found in plastics, which act like hormone mimics. So they're called hormone mimetics. So they enter into the body, and then they go to the receptor site where our endogenous hormone is supposed to go, and then they elicit a response, but this response is negative. This response is deleterious. And so the goal is really to get our body to produce its own endogenous production in the right way. So this leads us to two different and very, very contrasting approaches to endocrinology. So the first one is called the conventional model. And I like to refer to it really as the replacement model. So a man 50 years old walks into the doctor's office with low testosterone, and the antidote or the treatment is testosterone. A woman walks into the endocrinologist's office with low progesterone, and her antidote or treatment is progesterone. And within that model, there's actually two other ways that they can go about treating this. They can do what's called maybe age appropriateness. So they look at, for the gentleman, he's 50 years old, and they look at somebody else who's supposed to be at 50 normal levels, and they try to mimic another person at that age group. Another way would be to do what's called anti-aging. So that same gentleman, what they're trying to do now is to make his hormone profile look similar to that of a 20-year-old, and that would be called anti-aging. Now, in stark contrast, we have what's called the functional model of endocrinology. And I guess the easiest way to explain this is that it's really asking an extra question. So, we have low testosterone and say low progesterone as an example, and what we're asking is why. So we're not giving an exogenous hormone, which, by the way, incarcerates that person for having to take that hormone now for the rest of their life, and they get trapped. And so we're asking, why is that testosterone low? Why is that progesterone low? Why are they having, or for women, why do they have such a high estrogenic environment? So I think the best way to explain this is to give a couple of examples. So one of the things that we know is that when you carry around excess adipose tissue, which is really a name for fat tissue, we know that the fat tissue that's stored around the abdomen is very, very metabolically active. And one of the things it does is it takes hormones and it converts them into other types of hormones. So as an example, in a male, if they have excess adipose tissue around their waistline, they're going to take that testosterone and it's going to be converted by an enzyme called aromatase into estrogen. And that's why men, as they get more and more obese, get more feminizing type of features. So now let's take that male gentleman going into the endocrinologist's office, and he looks and he finds that he has low testosterone. Well, if they simply just give him testosterone, they're really only treating the symptom. They're not treating the cause. Because the true cause, in this case, would be the excess weight. And so the treatment plan would be to reduce the weight, which indirectly will increase the body's testosterone, or his own endogenous production of hormones. Another example would be the thyroid. So many people nowadays have hypothyroidism, which is a low production of thyroid hormones. Well, the thyroid gland produces two hormones. One is called T4, which is the inactive form, and another one, which is called T3, which is the active form. And there is an enzyme there that converts T4 into T3. So one of the things that we know is that the adrenal glands, actually, if the body is under stress and the adrenal glands produce a stress hormone called cortisol, well, cortisol can influence the conversion of T4 to T3 and stop the production or decrease the production of the thyroid. We also know that this conversion mechanism happens in the gut. We know it happens in the liver for the thyroid. So maybe there's something going on inside the liver or the GI system that needs to be established. And again, indirectly, that will increase the thyroid hormone. The point here is that the body is so complex that if we don't address the underlying causes, we're only treating the symptom. So the functional approach, and I'm going to give you a simplified version of what we do here in the office, is number one, is we get out the exogenous hormones. We look to see where there may be exposure, whether it be through the food, environmental toxins, and so forth, and we stop it. We also then aid the body in trying to rid itself of its stored exogenous hormone production that has been put in the body and stored in the fat tissue. We release that. Then we help the body first to try and produce and normalize its own endogenous production of hormones before we give any exogenous hormone. You see, the conventional replacement model, it jumps into hormone replacement first. The functional medicine approach is to fix all of the domino pieces first, build that foundation, see if we can get the body to produce its own natural ability to produce the hormones in the right ranges. And then, at the last measure, jump in with hormone replacement therapy if it's needed. But if it's not done in that order, that person then will still have the same problems, but they'll just be taking a medication. And so I hope this helped to kind of give you an idea of what we do here at the office with functional endocrinology. You know, some of the conditions that this helps is really all hormone-related disorders, anywhere from libido, endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, infertility, and the list goes on and on. But we utilize diagnostics, we utilize the urine, we utilize blood, we utilize saliva, because, you know, there's not one that's better than the other. They all kind of give different information. You know, the saliva tells us about the hormones in their free state, the ones that are being ready to be used. The blood tells us about the hormones that are being produced by the endocrine glands themselves. And then the urine tells us about the degradation of those hormones. So we like to kind of get a combination to kind of get a window in what the entire body is doing. And then we also like to look at the entire endocrine system and not just isolate, you know, looking at a hormone profile that looks at just TSH, which is one thyroid hormone, and just estrogen and just testosterone. No, we want to actually look at all of the hormones. And we want to look at how they're working in a symphony so we can find out where the domino effect lies to then intervene. So I invite you to come in to get an evaluation and to talk further about your particular case. And like I said, I hope you found this useful. Thanks so much for listening.